The body lies in a climate-controlled room in Cairo, linen wrappings 3,000 years old, the face, still recognizable, red hair turned white by time, skin like leather stretched over bone. This is not some minor noble, not a forgotten priest. This is Ramses II, Ramses the Great, the pharaoh who ruled Egypt longer than most civilizations exist. And here's what makes your skin crawl. When they unwrapped him in 1886, when French archaeologists carefully peeled back those ancient bandages, his body was so perfectly preserved that they could see his facial features, the shape of his nose, the set of his jaw, even individual strands of hair, as if he'd died yesterday, not 31 centuries ago. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, because the truly impossible part isn't how well his mummy survived, it's how long he lived before he became one. 66 years on the throne, 66 years as the absolute ruler of the most powerful empire on earth. To put that in perspective, that's longer than Queen Elizabeth II ruled England, longer than Louis XIV ruled France. In ancient times, when most kings died young from disease, assassination, or battle, Ramses just kept going. He outlived 12 of his own sons. Think about that, 12. He watched his children grow old and die while he remained pharaoh, remained in power, remained eternal. The ancient Egyptians who lived at the end of his reign had never known another pharaoh. Their parents had never known another pharaoh. For most of them, Ramses II wasn't just the king, he was Egypt. He had always been Egypt. He always would be Egypt. Except he almost wasn't. The year is 1274 BC. Ramses has been pharaoh for just 5 years. He's young, ambitious, hungry to prove himself worthy of the throne. His father, Seti I, had been a warrior king, a conqueror, and Ramses needs to show Egypt, show the world, that he's just as powerful. So he marches north, 20,000 men, 4 divisions of the Egyptian army, their target, the city of Kadesh, in what is now Syria. The problem, the Hittite Empire already controls Kadesh, and the Hittite king, Immortality, has no intention of giving it up. The Egyptian army approaches the city. Scouts bring Ramses information. 2 Bedouin tribesmen, captured and interrogated, swear the Hittite army is still far to the north, still days away. Kadesh is vulnerable, undefended. Ramses sees his chance. He pushes forward with just his division, the Ammon division, his elite troops. He'll take the city before the other divisions even arrive. It's a trap. The Bedouins were Hittite plants, liars. The Hittite army isn't days away. They're hiding behind the city, right behind it. And as Ramses sets up camp near Kadesh, feeling confident, feeling victorious, 2,500 Hittite chariots slam into his forces like a bronze fist. The Egyptian line collapses, soldiers scatter, panic spreads through the camp like fire through dry grass. Ramses, the young pharaoh who thought he would conquer Kadesh in an afternoon, suddenly finds himself surrounded, cut off, his elite guards dying around him, his army routing, running. This is the moment where Ramses II should have become a footnote in history, just another failed pharaoh who died young in a foreign land, another name in a list of forgotten kings. But something happens. According to Egyptian records carved in stone on temple walls, according to the inscriptions Ramses had made after the battle, he fought his way out, alone, just him, his chariot, and his horses. He charged the Hittite lines 6 times, cutting through enemy warriors like they were wheat. His arrows never missed, his strength never failed. The gods themselves came to his aid. The reality was probably different. Reinforcements likely arrived. The other divisions probably showed up in time to prevent total disaster. But here's what matters. Ramses survived. Against impossible odds, against military logic, against every tactical advantage the Hittites had, Ramses lived. And he went home and told Egypt he had won. The Battle of Kadesh was, at best, a draw. At worst, an Egyptian disaster narrowly avoided. But Ramses commissioned temple reliefs showing his great victory, poems describing his single-handed defeat of the Hittite horde, inscriptions praising his divine courage. He turned a near-catastrophic defeat into the greatest propaganda victory of his reign. And it worked. Egypt believed him. The Hittites, battered and exhausted, eventually agreed to a peace treaty, the first recorded peace treaty in human history, and Ramses emerged not as the pharaoh who almost died at Kadesh, but as the pharaoh who conquered Kadesh through sheer force of will. This is how Ramses ruled, not just with armies and gold, but with the power of his own myth. The monuments begin to rise. Abu Simbel, 4 colossal statues of Ramses sitting in judgment, each one 67 feet tall, carved directly out of a cliff face in Nubia, hundreds of miles south of the traditional Egyptian heartland. The statues face east. Every morning, the rising sun illuminates their faces. Every morning, for over 3,000 years, Ramses has been watching the dawn. Inside the temple, more statues, more images of Ramses, Ramses offering to the gods, Ramses receiving blessings, Ramses, 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 even in the Holy of Holies, the innermost chamber where only the high priests could enter. There stands Ramses, carved in stone, sitting alongside Ra, Ammon, and Ptah, the great gods of Egypt, and Ramses equal among them. This isn't just architecture, it's theology. Ramses isn't claiming to serve the gods, he's claiming to be a god, to exist on their level, to deserve their company in the eternal darkness of the temple's heart. And then there's the Ramesseum, his mortuary temple on the west bank of the Thebes, the largest temple complex ever built in Egypt at that time. Statues of Ramses weighing over 1,000 tons each, halls with pillars like stone forests, libraries containing thousands of papyrus scrolls, storerooms filled with grain to feed the temple workers for generations. The main statue, the younger Memnon, stood over 50 feet tall, its face carved with such precision that archaeologists can still read the expression of serene power. That statue is now in the British Museum, cracked and broken. But in its time, it dominated the western horizon of Thebes, a stone giant watching over the city of the dead. Everywhere Ramses went, he built, and everywhere he built, he carved his name, over and over, Ramses, 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 Usamatre Setepenri, his throne name, his divine name, carved so deep into stone that no future pharaoh could erase it, carved so many times that later archaeologists couldn't count them all. He didn't just build new monuments, he took old ones, temples built by previous pharaohs, statues carved centuries before he was born, and he carved his own name over theirs. He claimed their achievements as his own. He rewrote history in stone, making himself the builder of everything, the creator of all Egypt's glory. And the people worshipped him. The children, gods, the children. Ancient records suggest Ramses had over 100 offspring, 100, from 8 royal wives and countless concubines. His favorite wife, Nefertari, bore him at least 4 sons and 2 daughters. When she died, Ramses built her the most beautiful tomb in the Valley of the Queens. Wall paintings of such exquisite detail that modern restorers work in 5-minute shifts to avoid damaging them with their breath. But Nefertari was just the beginning. After her death, Ramses elevated several of his own daughters to the position of great royal wife. His own daughters. This practice, marrying within the royal family to keep the bloodline pure, to keep power concentrated. It happened before in Egyptian history, but never on this scale, never with this many children. The succession crisis this created was catastrophic. Who would inherit the throne? The eldest son died, then the second, then the third. Ramses outlived them all. Prince Amun-Herkhepeshef died, Prince Ramses died, Prince Paherhuenemef died, on and on. 12 sons dead before their father. The 13th son, Meremptah, finally inherited the throne, but by then he was already old, ancient. He ruled for only 10 years before he too died, and the dynasty Ramses built began to crumble, weakened by too many heirs, too much family intermarriage, too many years of one man's absolute control. But Ramses didn't see that, couldn't see it. He died believing his dynasty would last forever, that his children's children's children would rule Egypt until the sun went dark. The mummy tells a different story. When researchers examined Ramses in the 1970s, they found evidence of a life that refused to end. His spine curved with arthritis, his teeth worn down to the root from decades of eating bread filled with desert sand, his arteries hardened, his bones riddled with the damage of extreme old age. He had ankylosing spondylitis, a disease that gradually fuses the spine, painful, progressive, incurable even now. For the last decades of his life, Ramses would have walked hunched over, bent forward, every step an agony. The great warrior who charged the Hittite lines at Kadesh, reduced to an old man who could barely stand straight. But he kept ruling, kept building, kept filling Egypt with monuments to his own glory. His red hair, analyzed, showed he was probably of Berber descent, fair-skinned, unusual for a pharaoh. That red hair, preserved so perfectly that archaeologists could see it wasn't dyed, still clinging to his scalp 3,000 years after his death. His face, reconstructed using the mummy and modern forensic techniques, shows a man with a prominent nose, a strong jaw, and eyes set deep in their sockets. Not particularly handsome, not the godlike figure shown in his statues, just a man, an old man who had lived too long and seen too much. He died around 1213 BC, 90 years old, give or take. His body was mummified with such care, such precision, that it survived tomb robberies, floods, the collapse of his dynasty, the invasion of Egypt by Persians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs. It survived Napoleon's expedition to Egypt. It survived World War I and World War II. It survived everything. In 1976, the mummy began to deteriorate, fungus growing on the skin, eating away at the preservation. The Egyptian government flew Ramses to Paris, to France. They gave him a passport, listed his occupation as king deceased. The French government received him with full military honors, a dead pharaoh, given the respect of a living head of state. Scientists irradiated the mummy to kill the fungus, carefully restored the wrappings, sent him back to Cairo, where he now lies in the Egyptian Museum, still recognizable, still commanding attention, still refusing, in his own way, to die. Because here's the thing about Ramses II, the thing that makes him different from every other pharaoh, every other ancient king, every other ruler who demanded to be worshipped as a god. He almost succeeded. Walk through Egypt today, Ramses is everywhere. His statues stand in museums on every continent. His name is carved on temples from Nubia to the Mediterranean. His face appears on Egyptian currency, tourist posters, documentary after documentary. 3,000 years later, we still can't stop talking about him. And his body, his actual physical body, still exists, still watches us with empty eye sockets, still carries that red hair, now white, still bears witness to the fact that he lived, that he ruled, that he conquered, that he built. Most pharaohs, their mummies are dust, their monuments are rubble, their names are forgotten by everyone except archaeologists, but Ramses endures. Maybe that's what he wanted all along, not to live forever in the afterlife, not to sail through the underworld with Ra, but to live forever here, in stone, in memory, in the minds of people who would live 3,000 years after his death and still speak his name with awe. The pharaoh who wouldn't die, didn't die, not really. He's still here, still watching, still waiting, perhaps, for the sun to rise over Abu Simbel one more time, still refusing, even now, even in death, to let go of the world he once ruled. They called him Ramses the Great, Usamatre Setepenri. The Mart of Ra is powerful, chosen of Ra, son of Ra, living God, eternal pharaoh. And 3,000 years later, we still believe it.